everyone, welcome back to the 10th episode of Spooky and Kooky.
If you're into anything a little bit weird, a little bit of conspiracy, horror, anything like that, this is the pod for you.
Yeah, the big 1-0.
Yes.
Did you ever think we'd get to episode 10?
I didn't.
Because I know what we said. We said we would do it for a year and then see where we are. But what we say and what we do, we're talking to Flaky McFlakeson over here. After we released the first one, I genuinely thought that'd be it.
Yeah, well, we were terrified.
Yeah, like that first one made me want to crawl into a hole and never come out.
Yeah.
So, not the first one is like, not that it was like, we'd never done it before, so I'm not going to sit there and slate the episode, but just the feeling that it gave me.
Yeah.
I wanted to crawl into a hole and never come out. And I thought, this is it, I'm never doing it again. But we persevered through it.
And number 10 is going to be a good one. We saved it. We saved a good topic here.
We got a request for Bigfoot.
Yeah.
And I was quite happy because I have, like, this has been something that I've looked into since I was younger. So I was gassed to do this one.
Yeah, and not going to lie, I obviously know, I mean, who doesn't know?
I know of him.
But I always was one of those people that thought, nah. And then I started researching it, and I am converted. I am a believer.
Get in, losers. We're going Bigfoot hunting. So Ellen's going to start us off with what Bigfoot is, who is he, what's he is about.
Yeah, so the legend of Bigfoot, quite an elusive creature, but a creature believed by some to inhabit remote forested regions, particularly in North America. Name Bigfoot comes from, as you might expect, the big footprints that it leaves. So Bigfoot is typically described as a large, hairy, ape-like being, standing between 6 to 10 feet tall and covered in dark fur. Reports and anecdotes often describe it as having a strong, musty odour. And
Yeah,
stanky.
yeah, like he's foul-smelling.
Bigfoot
Needs some deodorant.
And capable of emitting eerie vocalizations. Little
Yes.
whoops.
Yeah.
So cute.
No, whoops and screams. I've actually got one to show you later on.
Oh, I'm looking forward
I've got
to
a
that.
recording.
So there's a few different names for Bigfoot as well around the world, because there are different sightings around the world.
Which we'll
So
go into.
I've got, well, I can briefly say
Yeah.
what they are and where they're from. So we got Sasquatch, name commonly used in North America, particularly among indigenous communities in the Pacific Northwest. We got Yeti, also known as the abominable snowman. That just rolls off the tongue. This creature is said to inhabit the Himalayan region or in Nepal and Tibet. We got Yowie, which is Australian, and a term used to describe a similar ape-like creature believed to roam the outback and the bush. We got Almas in Central Asia, especially in Mongolia. This term is used for a wild man or cryptid believed to live in the mountains. And
I've heard of the wild man of Vietnam.
Oh,
and
yeah.
loads of like American soldiers when they were in Vietnam, they came back and reported seeing like a Bigfoot-like creature, a wild man.
Yeah.
When they were fighting at war. How scatty would that be?
As if it's not bad enough.
The Vietnamese jungle, and then you just see Bigfoot, and you're like, sorry, how did I get here?
And then the last one is the skunk ape, reported in southern eastern United States, particularly in Florida. So, this creature is named for its strong odour. So really living up to its name.
Literally.
That's a little bit about Bigfoot and what they look like. I say he, but it's the species.
Yeah, they have like a reddish brownish tint sometimes as well. And I've actually heard reports of albino Bigfoots or Bigfoots without fur.
So just tall men.
And in the watchery, I'll just say what I'm doing in the watchery. I'm going to do Chimp Crazy. But from that, I looked into loads of little documentaries about chimpanzee, and I saw a bold chimpanzee, and they're absolutely terrifying. So I can only imagine what a bold Bigfoot looks
Oh
like.
my god. The stuff
Honestly,
of nightmares.
yeah, look it up.
But are the
it's
white ones
terrifying.
not the abominable ones? Because Yetis.
I think they're like polar bears, where it's not. They're not actually white. They're just covered in snow. Isn't that what polar bears are?
Well,
Or
I
is
thought
that a
their
myth?
fur was like translucent, so it actually
Yeah.
doesn't have a colour. But I don't know.
It might be. I'm not an expert.
I don't know. Anyone can correct us on that. I feel like I say things with confidence sometimes, and they turn out not to be
Haiti's in
true.
Africa.
Yeah. Africa being the perfect example of where I can't even remember where I said.
Haiti's in Africa.
Haiti.
It's not. It's in the Caribbean.
I would have put money on that, but my geography is poor. So
There was another thing as well that someone corrected us on about the Japanese man of war. It's actually
Really?
called a Portuguese man of war.
yeah, there's a Portuguese man of war as well.
Oh, when I
There's-
looked it up, it was only Portuguese.
Oh, I
Yeah,
don't know.
someone corrected us on that. Sorry, I've just shaken your world there.
Yeah, you really should be.
Oh,
I
anyway.
feel like I need to look at that. You never told me about that.
You're going to message me later, like, there is a Japanese man of war.
Yeah, well,
You
I do
absolute
feel like I
cheaters.
have to Google it now. Japanese. Oh my god, I don't want to be proved wrong on it. Yeah, Japanese man of war is also known as the Portuguese man of war.
Oh, when I looked it up, it was like, yeah, I read something different. Just cut this whole bit out, Liv.
No, because I feel justified, actually. Whoever said that, you're wrong. So, okay. Moving
Okay.
swiftly on.
Yes, I'm going to just chat about my new favourite show, Finding Bigfoot.
Yeah.
And the other day when I was watching Finding Bigfoot, I had the funniest thought that I feel like I need to share with the group. And obviously, we all know that RuPaul's Drag Race lives in my head absolutely rent-free. And as I was watching Finding Bigfoot, I was just thinking, there should have been a Sasquatch runway theme where everyone just gets in their best Bigfoot gear. And it could be like, someone could be Sassy the Sasquatch. You know, there would be like Bigfoot and his third Bigfoot. You know, there would be a rhinestone Bigfoot.
Oh, I was literally just thinking that.
Rhinestone and glitter
Bigfoot
everywhere.
with the drip.
You know, there would be like a cape of like fur that one just whips about.
Oh, do you think there'll be a reveal?
Oh, yeah, definitely.
What would you have underneath it? Just a bold
just
Bigfoot.
A person. Yeah. Just a person.
Veiny Bigfoot.
They would come out in a really horrible Bigfoot costume, like just a man in an ape suit,
Yeah.
and take it off, and it would be like a glamorous Bigfoot dress,
Yeah.
serving up looks. And the lip sync song would have to be that song. I don't even know the name for it, so I'm just going to sing it. But it would be like, I'm gonna live forever. Yeah. And you just know there would be slut drops, there would be death drops, there would be
Obviously.
everything,
Yeah, it needs
but
it
in a
all.
Bigfoot costume. So just think about it, because it's really funny.
I would pay good money for that.
And if it's on RuPaul's Drag Race for its next season, which obviously we won't even see in the UK because he's taken it off Netflix, like an absolute Judas, I want the royalties because this was my idea.
Bigfoot realness.
Yeah, gotta make it work. But anyway, Finding Bigfoot. It's got 12 seasons of the original Finding Bigfoot, and then there's another spin-off show called Finding Bigfoot, The Search Continues, and that has 9 seasons. So the show's been long running.
Did they ever find Bigfoot?
No. Spoiler, they never find Bigfoot on Finding Bigfoot. And I've watched this since I was in my teens, because I remember doing a tweet that was like awkward on Finding Bigfoot when they don't find Bigfoot.
12 seasons and they never found Bigfoot.
Well, 12 plus 9. And there's another show called Expedition Bigfoot, which doesn't involve any of the people here.
Yeah.
And they never find Bigfoot either. But I remember watching it as a teen, finding it on like the Discovery Channel or something, Animal Planet, something like that,
Yeah.
seeing it and being like, oh my god, this is going to be sick, Bigfoot's real, putting it on and being like,
I can't wait to find him.
after like the 4th episode, I was like, They don't really find Bigfoot though, do they?
Last episode of season 12, like, this is it.
They need to reveal him now. So it's based around 4 researchers who are all part of the BFRO,
Okay.
which is the Bigfoot Field Research Organisation. And I've got a bit here taken from their website,
Yeah.
which is kind of their, I don't know whether you'd call it a mantra, but this is a little bit about what they believe. So they say, it's a fact that more than 400 years, people have reported seeing a large hair-covered man-like animals in the wilderness and areas of North America. It is a fact that sightings of these animals continue today. Real or not, these reports are often made by people of unimpeachable character. And do you remember in the Spooky Lakes episode, check it out, despite the bad audio, that when we...
Oh, no, yeah. I was like, no, that one wasn't. No, it wasn't.
I had an issue with the audio for 2 episodes, but we're good now. I hope. Someone's going to comment like, the audio is still shit. Anyway, you know in that episode when we were talking about Nessie, and there was that sighting of the guy on the motorbike, and I was like, all I need to do is see the man and know if he's credible or not.
Yeah.
And that was like a little joke I was doing, because, you know, they actually do that in Finding Bigfoot though. Like anyone...
What, they get them on the
yeah,
show?
So they find people who have seen Bigfoot and they go and see them and they're like, we just need to see them to see if they're a credible witness. And almost everyone, I would say, bar like a few, like it's seldom that they think someone's sketchy and they're just like, now I've met you, I know you've seen Bigfoot.
I know you wouldn't lie to me.
Yeah, and they're like, we always need to be wary of child witnesses because, you know, they're not the most reliable, and then they see them and they're like, this is a sensible kid. He would not lie.
Also, I feel like children probably wouldn't lie, though. Like, they're probably more credible than half the adults.
It's quite funny that, yeah, just everyone they meet, they're like, you wouldn't, I can just tell your character, you wouldn't lie. You wouldn't make this up, you're not a hoaxer. So, anyway, back to finding the BFRO website. It is a fact that for over 70 years, people have been finding photography and casting sets of very large human-shaped tracks. Most are discovered by chance in remote areas. These tracks continue to be found to this day. It is a fact that cultural histories of many Native Americans and First Nation peoples include stories and belief about non-human peoples of the wild. Many of these descriptions bear a striking resemblance to hairy man-like creatures reported today. These are some of the facts. There is, however, much disagreements as to what these facts mean. So, there are 2 variations of what these facts mean. To many, these facts taken together suggest the presence of an animal, probably a primate, that exists today in very low population densities. If true, this species, having likely evolved alongside humans, became astonishingly adept at avoiding human contact through a process of natural selection. To others, these same facts point to a cultural phenomenon. I could never say that word. Phenomenon. Kept alive today through a combination of misidentification of known animals, wishful thinking, and the deliberate fabrication of evidence. The BFRO takes the form of you, obviously.
Yeah.
So that's a little bit about the BFRO. And the BFRO founder is in Finding Bigfoot, and it's a bloke called Matt Moneymaker.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm going to
Liv's
show
gonna
you
show
some
me.
pictures. Well, Liv's going to show you some pictures of the people as I say it, because I feel like just better to put a face to the name. But Matt Moneymaker used to be a lawyer, and whilst doing his studies, he supposedly had an encounter with a Bigfoot.
Right.
However,
What? How
I
is...
think he was part of a Bigfoot group at the university, like a
Oh,
squatching
okay, so
group.
not his law practice.
To be honest, Matt Moneymaker, there's a lot of controversy around this bloke, and I see why. And the only reason I know there's controversy is because I looked into him, because I find him sketchy as fuck.
He likes that money, as per his surname.
Yeah, apparently that is his real name, though. So it's just unlucky. But he used to be a lawyer, and you can really tell in the way he argues things and the way he sort of disputes non-believers. And apparently the story of his Bigfoot sighting that sort of sparked his whole interest and started the BFRO, there's a lot of speculation that it's not true because every time he tells it, the story changes a little bit.
Right.
So you've got to remember as well, there's a lot of money to be made from finding Bigfoot. Like, there's squatching equipment you can get, there's squatching merchandise that has like clothes and everything like that. And I think you can, I don't know this actually, so I probably shouldn't say it, but you can probably donate to the cause of finding Bigfoot. But there's a whole TV show.
There's 21 seasons that you can get out of it.
Yeah, so he's making that money.
Yeah.
So that's him. Then the next one I'm going to talk about is Renee Holland, who's a BFRO field biologist.
Oh, she looks cute.
She's our skeptical queen.
Okay.
Because she doesn't believe everything she hears. She very seldom doesn't have another explanation of what something could be. She's obviously a field biologist in those national parks in America, so she knows the terrain, she knows the animals, and she is very good at suggesting alternatives and annoying the 3 other castmates who believe in Bigfoot so firmly. And they always get on at her, but Renee's made it very clear that it's not that I don't believe, it's just I need to see it to believe it. I need to see one for myself to believe in these creatures, but I'm looking for it. I'm looking for the evidence. I want to find it. I want to find that evidence. And they always get on at her like, oh, Renee's... I don't know what Renee has to see for her to believe. Like, this is clearly a Bigfoot.
A Bigfoot.
Yeah, like, she's made it perfectly clear. And I think it's good to have her on the show because it kind of makes it a little less of a joke.
Yeah.
Yeah, because the other 3 arguably... Actually, no, one other who I'm about to talk about. Cliff Barackman. So he's a BFRO evidence analysis. Mm-hmm. I love him. He is a man...
At the end of the episode. Oh, okay. He's got a trustworthy face.
He is so innocent, and I don't know how else to describe him. He's got such a childlike wonder about Bigfoot, and I'm only up to season 4. As I've been watching it since researching this, which is still quite a lot of episodes. Yeah. But I'm still quite a way to go. And in the seasons I'm watching, he has never had a real Bigfoot encounter. He's seen evidence of some, and he's like heard the knocks, he's heard the whoops, he's heard the screams, but he's never seen a Bigfoot. But he believes so firmly that they are out there. And just when he's out there, you can see he's got such a love and a passion for being outdoors, and... yeah, he just really brings some wholesomeness to the show.
I hope he saw a Bigfoot for Christmas.
Yeah, I hope he's got that Bigfoot sighting. I always wish that for Cliff.
Yeah.
And then the last participant in the show is a bloke called James Fay, a.k.a. Bobo. So he goes by Bobo. He never goes by James Fay, or Renee calls him Bobes.
Bobes.
He is... a BFRO field cooler. He always wears a hat, either saying gone squatching or keeping it squatchy. And he has seen Bigfoot. So the only 2 who have seen Bigfoot are Matt and Bobo. And they always use Bobo, as you can probably see by the picture, in the reenactments of people. They did, in later seasons, they have started using other people, but at first they were always like, Bobo, get into position. So I was like, this is why they've brought Bobo along.
Yeah.
And I saw someone on Reddit say Bobo's one bad hair day away from being Bigfoot himself.
I can get that.
Yeah, and Bobo's just a bit of a joke, to be honest. Like, whenever he meets people, he always makes reference to his cousin called Crazy Frank. So he'll go and meet people and be like, hi, I'm Bobo, Crazy Frank's cousin. And I'm like...
He's not as renowned as you think.
Who is Crazy Frank? And he's always got these really crazy ideas about how they're going to catch a Bigfoot. So the show always has the same format.
Okay.
Which is they follow a piece of evidence, usually to a state in the United States.
Yeah.
They have... gone international, they've gone to find the Yowie, they've gone to find the wild man of Vietnam, they've gone to Indonesia.
Wow.
In the ones I've seen, so they've probably gone even further, but they do go international sometimes, but it's usually going around the different states of America and into Canada. So they follow a piece of evidence or someone's account. It's sometimes a video, sometimes audio, or sometimes just someone's account of seeing Bigfoot. So they go and talk to them, and then sort of scrutinise that, which usually turns out into, you're a credible witness, you've seen Bigfoot. And Bobo always shakes their hand like, welcome to the club, brother. You've seen a Bigfoot.
That's so American.
And after that, they'll do their first night investigation, do some knocks, do some whoops, and I've unlocked a new ick, and I'll show you, and I'll send Liv the video for everyone else to see at home. But this is them doing some calls.
I imagine like pots and pans and stuff.
No, they do like big tree knocks on wood, but this is just a call. So okay. I'll just show you now. This is Bobo doing one.
He's just shouting.
So that's apparently what Bigfoot sounds like.
Right, okay.
So they do some calls to try and get some activity, and sometimes something calls back. Rarely ever heard very clearly on the camera or the audio. Sometimes they have a bit of arguments with each other, which is quite good. At one point, they saw something on their thermal imager. They usually split up into two teams, and it ended up being the other team. Like chasing after each other.
Lord.
That's what I mean. This show is just chaos, and I love it. It's my new favourite thing. And so after that, they go to a town hall meeting.
Mm-hmm.
And everyone in the town gathers. As the show goes through the seasons, the town hall meetings get bigger because obviously they're getting more traction. And it's everyone who sort of wants to find out about Bigfoot or has a story about where they've seen Bigfoot.
Yeah.
So they'll go and say, raise your hand if you've ever seen a Bigfoot. Everyone will, raise their hand or keep it down. And they'll go through the stories and pick out a couple to investigate further. They'll also mark down all the sightings on a map. Yeah. So they have a location for their final night investigation. So I'll go round to all these people, get their stories, do their final night investigation. And on their final night investigation, they always do something a bit weird, like to bait him out. Like one time they had a baby crying and just left, like not an actual baby.
One time they had a baby, never featured again.
They had a baby doll.
Okay.
That was crying. They just left it to sort of bait Bigfoot out. One time they set off fireworks because apparently Bigfoots are really curious. One time they had a rave. One time Bobo got hold of a baboon. And Bobo's got some weird friends in some weird places because this is where he gets all his stuff from.
Yeah.
Because they did an episode where they did like a Q&A. And someone was like, where did you get the baboon? And Bobo was like, I've got friends. So they always do something kooky like that. And they don't find him. But usually the episode ends saying, well, we didn't find Bigfoot here. However, with all the stories, with all the evidence we've gathered, which is usually not much, we can conclude that Bigfoots are most likely live in wherever they are. State
right.
X, Y, and Z. And that's the show in a nutshell.
I think, fair play to them for keeping it going after that many episodes to be like...
Yeah, because these night investigations,
season.
they're out till 5 a.m. in the morning getting nothing.
Oh, that must
they're
be
out
really
there with hunters, rain. They're out there in all terrain. But yeah.
Wow.
My new favourite show. Give it a watch.
Okay, so I have a bit about the Patterson Gimlin footage and how that all came about. So I'll give you some background into each person. So we've got Roger Patterson. So Roger Patterson was an entrepreneur and always on the lookout for a good way to make money. He made a couple of inventions, but they never sort of took off. He was always sort of looking for the next
thing.
Yeah. He was an avid Bigfoot enthusiast and had developed a deep interest in the subject after reading about Bigfoot sightings and encounters in the Pacific Northwest. He even wrote a book titled Do Abominable Snowmen in America Really Exist? in 1966, which detailed various sightings and evidence of Bigfoot. So he was determined to capture proof of the creature's existence. So he borrowed money to buy a 16mm Cine Kodak camera and film. And he roped his friend Bob Gimlin into it. So Bob Gimlin was a seasoned outdoorsman and horse trainer. Although he wasn't convinced about Bigfoot's existence, like Patterson was, he agreed to accompany him on an expedition to Bluff Creek in Northern California in October 1967.
I've heard he was sceptical but supportive.
Yeah, so he was just being a good friend, basically. He was like, I'll go along.
I just want to be in the outdoors.
Yeah, it's just nice to be included.
Coming along for the ride.
So the area that they went to had a history of Bigfoot sightings, so they hoped to be the first people to capture evidence. So on October 20th, 1967, Patterson and Gimlin were riding their horses along Bluff Creek, a remote and rugged area in the Six Rivers National Forest. They were following up on reports of Bigfoot tracks found in the area, and the dense forest and rocky terrain made for a very challenging ride, but the two men were determined to document any evidence they could find. As they rode along the creek bed, Patterson's horse suddenly reared, as if spooked by something. It was at that point that Gimlin saw a large Bigfoot standing on the opposite side of the creek. The other horse, carrying their supplies, was also spooked and bolted, scattering their essentials as it went. Patterson went to grab his camera from his saddlebag, but was thrown off his horse. He quickly regained composure and began recording. This was when the creature turned its head to look to see where both men were, as it quickly walked away.
That's like the famous bit, isn't it?
Yeah. Patterson asked Gimlin to cover him so he could reach a better vantage point, so Gimlin remained on his horse and raised his rifle, prepared to pull the trigger if the creature became hostile. Classic.
I'm surprised
It's
if
walking
he was
away.
looking for like money though, that he didn't. Like, I'm honestly surprised that people haven't
Shot them.
And like even hunters misidentifying it as something. Like, yeah.
I think Patterson did say that he regretted not shooting it, but I think it's because they're so like human.
Yeah, at least shoot it in the ankle. Just maim it. Get it in.
That's so much better.
Oh, God.
Be tested on and all that horrible stuff.
No, I would hope if someone did ever shoot one, they wouldn't just cover it up and be like, oh my God, what have I done? They would bring it in so.
Well,
it
I
can
mean,
be
you've done it
used as,
by that point.
Yeah, like there's no point in just putting leaves over it.
Couple of leaves, that's perfect.
And you couldn't take any of the money from it because that would be brutal, but people would. But that's why I'm shocked at Patterson.
Yeah, I guess it's one of those things in the moment. Although,
yeah, he made a choice, which was the right choice.
Yeah, we don't want to. We don't want to
condone hunting.
Mm-mm. Okay, so as the creature continued to walk away, it became cloaked by the trees. Again, Patterson tried to move to a better vantage point, but by that time, the Bigfoot, later referred to as Patty, had retreated further into the forest, and the reel of film had come to an end. Gimlin followed the Bigfoot at a distance on his horse until he heard Patterson calling for him. Patterson was afraid of what might happen should another Bigfoot come along, and he was without his horse, a rifle, and his friend. Bless him. Bit of FOMO. The two men then rounded up their horses and used another reel of film to capture the tracks that the Bigfoot had left behind. They then returned to the camp to get some plaster and took moulds of the left and right footprints and began preparations to have the film developed. They believed the creature was female because of the breasts that they saw at the time, now backed up by their footage. The creature was estimated to be around 7 to 8 foot tall and weighing in somewhere between 21 to 25 stone. She's a big gal.
Big thick gal.
The film quickly gained widespread attention and has been the subject of intense scrutiny and debate ever since. Experts in various fields, including primatologists, special effect artists, and film analysts, have examined the footage, and despite numerous attempts to debunk the film, no one has ever been able to conclusively prove that it's a hoax. Notably, Ken Patterson, the chief animator for Disney at the time, and his 4 assistants were completely convinced that whatever the creature was in the footage, it wasn't something that they could create themselves. M.K. Davis, a renowned Bigfoot enthusiast, is among those who have meticulously analysed the Patterson Gimlin footage frame by frame. He points out that in frame 61, the creature's right foot is lifted at a vertical angle just before it moves back down to the ground.
The toes are pointed up, aren't they?
Yeah. In this still, you can clearly observe the foot's pad and individual toes. At the time, even the best Hollywood movies, including Planet of the Apes, featured costumes that were far less realistic than the creature in the film. The film shows defined muscle structure and visible muscle movements as the creature walks, which was impossible to recreate with special effects of that era. And even today, we would just do CGI, like we couldn't do that with special effects. To further dispel the man in a suit theory, special effects artist William Bill Munns spent years scanning each frame of the film in 4K resolution to scrutinise every detail. After examining the creature's movements, fur, muscle activity, and overall size, Munns concluded with absolute certainty that what was captured on the film could not have been a man in the suit. The moment the creature turns to look at Patterson and Gimlin adds credibility to it being an ape-like bipedal hominid rather than a person in a costume. Anthropologists have confirmed that his head movement mirrors that of great apes like chimpanzees, gorillas, and orangutans. Apes cannot turn their heads to look behind them, and they must tilt their heads back and around due to the structure of their neck and shoulders.
It's got the apex-like ridge that a lot of great apes have as well.
Yeah. Fans of Finding Bigfoot, like you, will recognise the name Cliff Barrickman.
Yes, Cliff!
Yeah. Shout out to Cliff.
Cliff, my man!
Despite the show's dramatised elements, Cliff is a dedicated Bigfoot researcher with over 25 years of experience. And he holds one of the most extensive collections of Bigfoot footprint casts globally. The Patterson Gimlin footprint casts and photos of the creature's tracks reveal remarkable details. One notable feature is the distinct pressure ridge as a result of the push-off motion we make when powering forward with our feet. Many serious Bigfoot researchers consider this a crucial piece of evidence. These footprints details match characteristics found in casts from various locations, including China and Russia, regions where Bigfoot could theoretically survive largely undetected. This supports the theory that these creatures migrated when the Bering Sea land bridge was still in existence. To summarise, despite the passage of time, the debate over the authenticity of the Patterson Gimlin film continues. The film remains a tantalising piece of the puzzle in the ongoing search and evidence of Bigfoot. Yeah.
So, the way we're going to do the way we thought we were going to do the episode was Ellen is going to say the reasons that Bigfoot could be real, and I was going to do reasons that Bigfoot couldn't be real, and I'm going to be putting forward those arguments of why Bigfoot couldn't be real. In regards to the Patterson Gimlin film, obviously, this is alleged, but it's real.
100%.
I'll just say it. It's fucking real, because do you know how I know it's real? Because when I first saw it, I thought, nah, that's just a man in an ape costume. Do you know what the arguments against it are?
That's
it just looks like a man in an ape costume. And I thought that, and I'm not an expert.
I thought
that's
that
how I
too.
know it's not. That's how I know it's real. Because if I can think that, and that's the only argument against it, and I'm not a specialist, I'm not an expert, I'm not even that intelligent, it must be fucking real.
And this is the thing, like, if you think how long that's been out for, that no one can come up with anything other than it looks like a man in a suit,
bad costume,
which is what you think at first because you think it's just silly.
Yeah,
because you know...
and it does. It like objectively, it does look like a bad gorilla suit.
But it's not.
Yeah, I know. Do you know it's the second most watched movie reel in history behind the last minutes of JFK?
Really?
Yeah.
I'm not
Bigfoot is some
surprised.
serious shit. We usually come in here with all the silliness, but today we're talking about serious, hard facts.
This is the hill I'm willing to die on.
I said many episodes ago, and again, what I say and what I do are two different things, that we would remain unbiased. But after looking into why he's not real, I am a believer.
I just, like I say, at the start of this, before I did any research, I was not a believer, and I thought it was only one Bigfoot, and I was like, well, how is this one Bigfoot?
But that's how it starts.
Yeah.
You start off like, nah, that he's not real, and start reading off all these arguments, but they can be so easily disproved and disputed that it's actually silly to say he's not real.
And yeah, there was other things that I thought, well, what about this? What about this? What about this? Which I'll go into arguments against, and the math is mathing.
It's all adding up, and I've got some theories which are a little bit out there, but that could actually provide reasons and evidence of all those arguments. So I'm definitely I know I was meant to be doing the Bigfoot is not real camp, but I'm in the other camp. I'm with Cliff.
It's hard to do.
He is real. Cliff, if you're out there.
And like, you just think that, okay, we think it's silly, but it's only because it's not like proven.
Yeah,
it's
no
like
body.
how people, well, this is controversial because some people do think it still, but think the earth is flat.
Yeah.
But then when it was proved it wasn't, then everyone was like, oh, well, you obviously, that's so stupid. Like, you think about it now and you're like, well, obviously. But at the time...
Yeah. And when
probably...
he's proven to be real, when we have hard evidence, I will be the first to rue that day.
But will we ever? Because they're just so smart. They know exactly what they're doing.
I think there could become a day where we get like some definitive evidence, maybe some things left behind like DNA, because all the DNA at the moment is either inconclusive, probably because it is Bigfoot and they don't have any other DNA in their database like that. I don't know how DNA works though, or it's like misidentification of another animal, which you would expect. Like, you find hair in the forest, you take it in for analysis, it could be bears. Bigfoot, it could be a bear, it could be a moose, it could be any of those things. But I do actually have some other arguments against the Patterson Gimlin film, but I just want to put it on record that I don't stand by these. These are just for educational information only. So apart from the argument of it just looks like a costume, it's coincidence, isn't it? Like, they went looking for Bigfoot and they found one.
Yeah. However...
That's all I know.
Oh, that was it.
I've got. No, that's not all I've got. What were you going to say?
I was going to say that like, a lot of the sightings were in the gold rush era, and that was when humans weren't meant to be in the areas that they were. So plausible to think that the Bigfoot didn't think that they would have to hide in that area, and so that is why they came across them, basically. It was because they had encroached on their territory, and it was before they were like, oh shit, now we've got to move.
See, you've just debunked my next point, which is the Bigfoot in the film, Patty, she doesn't display normal Bigfoot behaviour. In normal Bigfoot sightings, they take off like a flash.
She's like, probably like, what
quickly.
The fuck is that?
But if they'd never seen humans before, if it wasn't a known thing, if they hadn't have had to do that before, then that makes perfect sense, obviously.
Yeah, that you'd just be looking like...
Yeah, but that was the other thing. It was just a bit odd for a Bigfoot to walk across, look behind, and just she walks off very slowly when usually they're just like 2 steps gone.
Yeah,
they leg it. And the other thing, actually, it's for it. It's the only other thing I found, and it's evidence for it. So I think I can't remember which one it was, because I think one of them died. Let's just say it's both of them. They never made any money off that film.
No.
The money went all... They didn't better their own lives with the money that came from that film. All their funding for that film, or all the funds they got from that film, went on proving the film's validity. Why on earth would you do that if it was a hoax? You would take the money and run.
Yeah, well, actually, Gimlin stepped back because he didn't like everything that was happening, and Patterson did do him dirty a little bit. So he did tours and stuff, and he would bring out Gimlin, and it wasn't him. It was just this matey. And then Gimlin found out about it, and he was like, "What?"
It might have been Gimlin then who didn't use any of the money to better his own life.
Yeah,
because I think
he
it
wanted
was only
nothing
one of them,
to do with it. Really,
one of them spent all the funds on proving it's real, and I kind of feel like that's something that Gimlin would do, considering he was a skeptic, and people are then saying it's not real, and he's like, bruh, I saw this with my own eyes, it's fucking real, I'm going to spend all the money on it just to prove it, because he didn't better his own life with it, and I thought it was just one of them, so that does make sense. But yeah, in conclusion, Patty is real.
Yeah, and I bet she went home and she was like, what a day.
Like,
look,
God.
I just saw the weirdest fucking thing ever.
Do you know Bigfoots who walk around in the day? I think they're called day watchers or something of that derivative, because obviously they need to stay elusive, and usually they're nocturnal.
Yeah.
But they send one person off from their troop to obviously just scout the area and make sure they're not under attack or under threat. So she was probably a day watcher.
Well, that makes sense. I mean, that's classic survival tactics, isn't it? Like, humans aren't meant to sleep solidly throughout the night like we do.
Yeah.
Because we would be, like, taking watch.
Yeah.
Like, taking shifts.
Yeah, that's
in the
what
wild.
Bigfoots do.
Yeah. So they're just smart. Plot twist, what if they're smarter than us?
They probably are if they've managed to stay elusive all this time. But we move. We move to... Do you want to do your theories on why he's real?
On why he's... Well,
or why they're real. I keep talking as it is one singular being.
So it was really just when... It was me just trying to disprove myself. Like, when I was like, well, why... Where would Bigfoot have come from? What is this, like... What's the origin story of Bigfoot? And that's when I came across the Gigantopithecus theory. So... Gigantopithecus was first discovered when paleontologists found a molar belonging to a giant ape whilst examining
That they did.
Yeah, the bones said to be dragon bones in Chinese apothecary. So after they discovered that molar, hundreds of other teeth were revealed to apparently have belonged to the giant ape. And in 1956 they found a jaw. It was discovered by a Chinese farmer, which gave them a better understanding of the nature of Gigantopithecus. So they thought that it was probably first evolved about 9 million years ago in China and became extinct about 300,000 years ago. And they reckon that it probably was about 10 feet tall and weighed about 1,200 pounds.
Long boy.
Yeah. Yeah. So gorillas weigh about 400 pounds. So, like, put it into perspective.
Imagine being beaten up by one of them.
Literally. They really could throw you around.
You're just gone.
Throw you around the room a bit.
Yeah. Some girls would like that. Some girls are out there looking for a Gigantopithecus.
You just throw me around the room a bit.
Just bring out your inner Gigantopithecus. Bring out your inner Bigfoot for me.
Your primal Giganto. Well, that took a different turn. Oh my god.
I bet there's people out there that do that.
What?
Bigfoot kings.
Or, like, they get the suit on.
Bobo's suspect numero uno.
They're like, woo! It's that peanut butter you got there.
Ever since me and Kieran's been watching Finding Bigfoot, we sometimes just whoop at each other. It's a completely innocent way, obviously. But we're just one Bigfoot calling to another. We speak the language.
You lose each other in the shopping centre and you're just like, woo!
We did that in Tesco. Don't call me out like that. How did you know?
So, they said that the Gigantopithecus was restricted to China and Southeast Asia and parts of India, just based on like what they thought that it ate. So it was like bamboo, and I guess the kind of fruits that it ate were restricted to those regions. So yeah, paleontologists say that it's been extinct for hundreds and thousands of years, but not everyone is convinced that the giant ape is completely gone.
So would Bigfoot be a cousin or ancestor?
An evolution, so it'd be part of the family tree of a Gigantopithecus.
Apparently, hominoids and obviously great apes anyway, the family tree is bushy. Like, there's a lot.
I know that.
You looked at me as if to be like, where are you going with this?
Sorry.
No, it's bushy as fuck.
Yeah, I bet. I mean, well, if you think that we'll be... Are we technically on there?
We're hominoids.
We did, in theory, evolve from apes, so we'd be on there. So, yeah.
Bigfoot's a cousin of ours. Have him round for Christmas.
Oh my god, it'd be like Elf, where everything's really small for him.
Yeah.
Like they're in the shower, like, flushing the water.
No one can sit in the same room as it, because it just hums.
Well, yeah, that's what the shower is mandatory upon arrival.
Wonder if it smells like sulphur.
Probably.
I'll go into the paranormal derivatives, but it could
that makes it sound demonic, though, when you say, oh no. No, Bigfoot's not.
Just wait.
Because otherwise surely they'd be like doing bad shit if that were the case.
No, paranormal doesn't mean
No, but I said
say...
demonic.
No. What, like sulphur smell?
Yeah.
No. Is it only demons that smell like sulphur? I just thought it was paranormal things, like they had a weird odour.
Oh.
I don't know about that, but we'll go into that. Anyway, I'll stop interrupting now. I just can't help myself. I get so excited about this topic. Like, honestly, this is a hill I'm going to die on.
But yes, they're basically, the theory is that Bigfoot is from the family tree of a Gigantopithecus. And like I said before, the reason that they've branched out into other areas of the world is that the Yeti ancestors may have followed ancient humans across the Bering Land Bridge to North America.
That would make sense. To find food.
Yeah. And that's why that there's accounts of them. That's how they could have travelled.
Yeah.
Was through the Bering Land Bridge before it was no more. And then my other question mark used to be, well, why haven't we seen them more? If they're out there, then why is there only a handful of sightings that can't be disproved? That doesn't make sense to me. Well, it's because they're obviously intelligent. They're intelligent beings. How would something survive that long? We all know humans, we are shit people. We are a shit race.
Yeah.
That love to just kill stuff and...
In all fairness, who would want to be around us?
Yeah. And there is an example of even humans being completely out of the public eye.
Yeah.
So there was a tribe called the Yahi tribe. And they were a small group of Native Americans who lived in Sierra Nevada in the foothills of California. For over 40 years, they lived in isolation. No one had seen them at all. Not one time. And it was only until the last surviving member, a man called Ishi, emerged from the forest in 1911. And he was quite ill.
Yeah.
Because like his whole tribe had gone by that point.
Perished.
Yeah, and he was taken in by anthropologists in the University of California in Berkeley. And he...
so disorientating.
Yeah, he lived and worked there, so he was a janitor until 1916. Yeah, he ended up... I think he got...
It made him sweep the floor.
Well, can you just imagine, though, what like how mad that would be to reintegrate? Well, you're not even reintegrating because you were never in the society that you're now in.
Not gonna lie, if I was Ishi, I'd be sighing hard every single day. I'd be at that job. I would just be like, I want to go back without any of you people.
Yeah, and
I'm well now.
Well, he ended up getting tuberculosis because the trouble is you would have no immunity to the diseases that we would have.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, he got that.
So coming around us actually was his demise.
Well, I mean, he would have probably died in the forest on his own anyway if he was ill. He couldn't
true.
survive. But whether he regretted that choice or not, I don't know. I don't think he did. I think we ended up learning.
His little life.
Yeah, we ended up learning quite a lot. But he was only in society for 5 years until he died. But that's an example of people going completely under the radar.
Yeah.
If they were never seen once, then it's plausible that
another
Bigfoot, who
person could do
in
it,
theory, might have even been on this earth longer than us. They're going to know much better than us of how to hide.
And those national parks are big.
Yeah, there's a lot of space. So they were my pros because they were the things that I wanted to know, and they convinced me because I was like, oh damn, Bigfoot's out there.
Yeah, I've got some common arguments against, and I'll reel them off. So, photo and video evidence is poor. I've got an explanation for all of these. Bigfoot does not fit in the food chain. Bigfoot too big to go unnoticed. No fossils. Successful breeding unlikely. Widespread misidentification. No sightings before 1958, which we know is a lie because the Native Americans talk a lot about Bigfoot and they're quite a spiritual being to them.
Yeah.
So, no body yet. It would be for a high reward. So that's apparently an argument against him.
Yeah.
Bigfoot is hoaxers' paradise and lack of physical evidence. And I think that's the thing that a lot of scientists harp on, the lack of physical evidence. How can he be real if we don't have anything to say that he is real? And a lot of scientists think for there to be creatures out there to be real, there would need to be some kind of remains like bodies, bones, skin, hairs or DNA. However, this is where it gets a bit wild.
Well, even so, like even without it being a spiritual being or whatever, we bury our dead.
Yeah,
so why would they not do the same?
Yeah.
Especially even just for survival, like you wouldn't want
and
a dead body near you attracting. Yeah.
You could bury something and it not be found. And we've just said about how big it is, but how big the national parks are. However big Bigfoot is, the national parks are bigger.
Yeah.
So, yeah. But some researchers of Bigfoot believe that Bigfoot could be an alien from another dimension, which comes from people who have seen Bigfoot, has often seen it with fast-moving orange orbs around it. And if we just cast our minds back again to the Spooky Lakes episode when I was talking about Lake Baikal, what was above it? Orange orbs.
Yep.
And there was 10-foot creatures down below. Yes, they weren't hairy, but this is the same, like there's similarities in it, really. And a lot of people have seen it just vanish, like Bigfoot just vanish. Like, yes, it's quick. Yes, it usually runs away. But there have been reports of, like, deer footprints, a Bigfoot footprint appearing very quickly behind the deer. The deer gets caught and the Bigfoot footprints disappear as well. So it's like it almost comes very fast, catches the deer, and then just goes again. They're very commonly seen around the Appalachian Trail. And we all know what weird shit goes on there.
Yeah, all goes down in the Appalachians.
So there could be some sort of portals in the national park, some people think, that they're using. And you could say, well, why would they only be in the national parks? They could be mining something for another alien race from our planet. That's why they're so big and strong. They could be getting some sort of natural resource. They could be like scouts to check out the terrain. Or I don't know what they could be doing here, but this is the theory.
Or even if that's just where they live now, and they just know that they're not going to be bothered there.
Yeah, and paranormal investigator William Hall explained that the paranormal world is more connected than people think, and many Bigfoot and UFO sightings have a lot in common. Fast-moving lights, disappearing beings, etc. Bigfoot hunter Bill Brock believes Bigfoot is using portals to get around as he found Bigfoot tracks that seem to quickly appear behind deer tracks. This was the one I was on about. So I've also got some stories of a sighting in Pennsylvania where he disappeared, but there are loads of these, but I'll just give it as an example. So, on the night of July 31st in 1966, a group of 4 friends were having a vacation at a local beach in Erie, Pennsylvania. When they went to leave, their tyre was stuck in the mud. One of the boys went to find a tow truck, leaving the other boy and 2 girls alone. Several hours passed and the friend still wasn't back. Then, in the night sky, they saw a figure flying in the sky. They took a close look and didn't know what it was. Then a purple flash of light beamed into the sky and the UFO-like figure summoned a bluish-purple light from the ground and flew off. Then a policeman showed up, wondering why they were sitting there at the late time that it was. They explained that they were stuck and they were waiting for their friends to get back. The officer offered to go take a look, so the boy went along, leaving the 2 girls alone. Later they saw something rustling in the bushes, then a 6 to 8 foot tall figure trudged out the ground and growled at the 2. They were very frightened, and the beast ran up and attacked their car. Eventually, when the others got back, the girls told their story. So that was one of the UFO and then Bigfoot appearing. So it could be that the UFO beamed him down, if you want to think like that. And then there's another one. So another sighting took place in 1966 in a very southern part of Pennsylvania. A woman was sitting in her chair in 1966, then she heard something on her back porch. She thought a pack of dogs had returned, so she got her gun. When she got out, she saw a hairy humanoid about 50 foot away. She took a shot at it, but it teleported away. Then her son-in-law came over with his gun. Then about 8 of the creatures appeared and growled at him. He then ran away and dropped his flashlight. So one actually teleported away in front of someone. And if you think back to Native Americans and indigenous people, they have had relationships with Bigfoots for hundreds of years and often associate the creature with natural or spiritual phenomena. Tribal beliefs about Bigfoot are based on actual encounters or mystical perception of natural spirits. And in finding Bigfoot, they actually go to meet some of the Native American people and they do rituals, which is about opening your mind to bring Bigfoot closer to you. It's like a spiritual thing. It's like something that represents nature.
Yeah.
So it could be that they are spiritual beings, it could be an alien, it could be something else paranormal, or it could just be another species that are out there. I don't know what one it is.
But it's one of them.
This is where I'm not sure. I just know that it can't just be that everyone's misidentifying bears and deer.
Yeah.
Or doing hoaxes.
And the thing is, like, if I said to you, last night I saw a fox in the woods or whatever outside my house, you would believe me.
Yeah, then if I said, like, no, it was a cat.
Yeah, like, no, you've seen it wrong. It wasn't that. If I told you I saw a Bigfoot, you'd be like,
I'd probably be like,
you'd be like, sick.
Why wasn't I there?
But it's just like one of those things, isn't it? It's just funny how that goes. But
yeah, people are so skeptical, but there are just so many sightings, and it does, like you said, the math is just mathing. Yeah. And I read something about this whole paranormal connection, and the paranormal world is more connected than we think, and it's like the UFO people don't like to talk to the paranormal people because they think they make it up, and the paranormal people, like ghost hunters and stuff, don't want to talk to the Bigfoot people because they think they're crazy. But actually it all can be interlinked together, and it's like there are similar things that happen, which is one thing about the argument that he's not real. So the thing about like video and camera evidence being poor, paranormal things make technology go screwy. And a lot of people report, I got out my camera and it just cut out.
Yeah.
So, and the smell. They have a really bad odour. That could just be an evolutionary thing, or it could be connected to this paranormal side of it.
And also, even if you believe in, like, you're actively trying to seek out a Bigfoot, if you actually saw one, I don't know if my first instinct would be to get out my phone. I think my first instinct would probably be I either wouldn't be able to move, or I would be running.
Do you know, a lot of the footage that I've seen, obviously I've seen quite a lot just in finding Bigfoot alone, and when researching this you come across stuff, don't you?
Yeah.
But a lot of the ones I've seen are people recording something else and it's just there.
Yeah.
It's not like the Patterson Gimlin film where they recorded Patty as she was. It's usually like, oh, I was capturing my kids riding bikes, and in the background something darted out the bushes, or oh, I was riding a mountain bike, or what are those things? Those dirt bikes. I saw
Yeah.
one where a guy, and it was very convincing actually. A guy was on a dirt bike and it just walked across the river where he was riding, and everyone was like, "Wait, what was that?" So everyone was taken aback, and it didn't look staged.
No.
So there's a lot of sightings that you think. Not that I'm going to be like, oh, they just have an unimpeachable character.
But it's those
I
ones
believe
that look
them.
like they're by chance that have the
Yeah.
most
Or
credibility.
people who are just like, I wouldn't believe in Bigfoot unless I had seen him myself.
Yeah.
And I think sometimes, like, before researching this, I think if I saw one, I would literally be like, what was... I wouldn't necessarily think, it's Bigfoot.
Yeah.
Even though I know of him and know what he was, before researching this and really getting down deep into it, I would just be like, what what did I just see?
Well, to finish it off, I've actually got an abduction story for
Sick.
Bigfoot.
That's a Bigfoot.
Okay, so this is Albert Ostman's encounter of
Albie.
of Bigfoot. It's another relatively long story, but it's a good one. So, in the summer of 1924, Albert Ostman, a seasoned lumberjack and prospector, decided to take a vacation near Toba Inlet, British Columbia, in hope of finding a lost gold mine. He hired an elderly Native American man to take him to the head of the Toba Inlet, and on their journey, the man told him of stories about the lost mine. He said a drunk white man would regularly visit the saloon with bags of gold, but one day he went back to the mine and never returned. It was rumoured that Sasquatch had killed him, and at the time, Ostman had never heard of the Sasquatch before, so the man told him all about them,
It's a bit of a leap.
describing their large appearance. Well, not really, because if no one else knew where the mine was, I mean, he could have just died by anything.
Just got there.
But, well, it could have been there.
My mind wouldn't go to Sasquatch, but
Well, maybe they were.
they did.
Maybe
they had
maybe they were living in
sightings.
the mine.
Yeah, maybe they just had sightings or something.
It was probably based on something. I don't know what that something was. So at the time, Osman had never heard of a Sasquatch before, so the man told him all about them, describing their large appearance and hair-covered bodies. When they reached their destination, they ate supper and the two parted ways. One morning, Osman noticed that his things had been disturbed in the campsite during the night, though nothing appeared to be taken. That night, he filled his rifle and kept it under the edge of his sleeping bag. Smart. Never know. The next morning, Albert noticed the contents of his rucksack had been emptied out, but the bag itself was still hanging from the pole. He noticed that his prunes and pancake flour had been taken, but the salt was left untouched.
What a breakfast.
Yeah. Again, Osman settled down for another night, keeping his rifle close to him. Suddenly, he was jolted awake by a tremendous weight on top of him. Confused and unable to move, he felt himself being lifted off the ground. To his shock, Osman realised that he was being carried away by an enormous creature. He described the creature as being around 8 feet tall, with enormous strength. The creature carried him for what felt like hours, across rough terrain and through dense underbrush. After what seemed like an eternity, the creature finally put him down on a plateau. Once Osman was set down, he found himself in a small clearing with a primitive shelter. To his astonishment, he saw not just one, but 4 Sasquatches. A large male, a female, and 2 younger ones. The male Sasquatch appeared to be the leader of the group, and he communicated with the others through grunts and gestures. The younger Sasquatches were curious but kept their distance from the unfamiliar human. Despite his initial terror, Osman observed that the Sasquatches did not seem intent on harming him. He noticed their human-like features, muscular bodies covered in hair, and large, expressive eyes. The female Sasquatch brought him food, including sweet-tasting grass and roots, and he observed their behaviour over the next few days. The Sasquatch would also observe his behaviour, copying his mannerisms and entranced by his boxes of snuff, which was type of tobacco.
Apparently they are curious beings.
Yeah, much like us. Osman remained captive for 6 days. During this time, he carefully studied the Sasquatch family's behaviour. He noticed that the male was very protective, often standing guard while the others rested or foraged. The female Sasquatch seemed to be responsible for gathering food and caring for the young. He described their communication as a series of grunts and gestures which conveyed a range of emotions and instructions. Desperate to escape, Osman devised a plan to incapacitate the large Sasquatch. Since the Sasquatch were very interested in his boxes of snuff, he decided to use it to his advantage. He offered the box to the male Sasquatch, who curiously sniffed it and then consumed the contents. The strong tobacco made the Sasquatch groggy and disorientated. Seizing the opportunity, Osman fled the plateau, following the rough path the Sasquatch had taken when carrying him. The female Sasquatch attempted to chase after him, but Osman fired his rifle above her head in hopes of scaring her. This appeared to do the trick, as she quickly retreated. After hours of running, Osman finally emerged from the dense forest and came across a logging camp. Exhausted and dishevelled, he approached the loggers and told them he was a prospector who had gotten lost. He refrained from mentioning the Sasquatch encounter, fearing disbelief and ridicule.
Yeah.
Osman kept his incredible story to himself for over 3 decades. It wasn't until 1957, when he read about other Sasquatch sightings in a local newspaper, that he decided to come forward with his account. He shared his story with a local reporter from the province, detailing his harrowing experience and the strange beings he had encountered. To this day, Albert's account of what happened has never altered, and his story remains one of the most detailed and intriguing accounts of Sasquatch encounters. While skeptics question the plausibility of his tale, many in the cryptozoology community consider it a valuable piece of evidence. And people did ask, and he did even say himself, he had his rifle with him, like they never took his rifle away from him, but he couldn't bring himself to shoot them because they were just so much
gentle.
like humans. Yeah, and they weren't trying to hurt him, so he didn't want to hurt them.
What do you think about it?
I think that it's quite interesting that he had never heard of one before that day, and
then his mate told him about one, and then all of a sudden he gets abducted.
But this again is also, he wasn't friends with that guy. It was just the tour leader.
Yeah,
but he was in a remote area again, like we had said. These encounters seem to have been in the gold rush era, which this was. So it seems strange, but then why would he sit on that story for 30 years? If it was me and that happened to me and it wasn't really talked about, I probably wouldn't say anything either, because I'd be like, people are going to think that I'm stupid.
I'd think I'd slipped into a very weird dream. I don't even know, because why are the Sasquatch taking him? I don't know what to think about that. I'm on the fence about that one. I don't know if I believe it or not.
Yeah,
and I'm a believer.
Maybe a reason they probably hadn't come across a human before, because this is at the time when we're encroaching on their land, and this might have been their territory.
Yeah, so
and they don't seem to be violent. There's not really.
Apparently, the Yowie is more violent, or the Australians are fearing the Yowie a lot more than the American.
Yeah, but I don't know. It's just very interesting. It's an interesting story.
It is an interesting one. I just don't know how I feel about it. I'm a bit on the fence about it because, there are just some questions that it raises, and it's just quite a convenient story.
Yeah.
Right, finish off with the watchery.
Yeah, go for it.
I've got a good one today, so settle on in. So I'm going to talk about Chimp crazy today, which should be called Chimp Delusion, because that's what it is. Kind of like Tiger King, but with chimpanzees. So we meet someone who coins herself as the Dolly Parton of chimpanzees, which is Tonya Haddocks, and she keeps large chimpanzees at her homes in cages.
Right.
And the whole thing is basically a battle with Peter.
Mm-hmm.
And there's this guy, I can't remember his name, I think it's Jared. Let's just call him Jared.
Yeah.
From Peter, who she's got a real, like, rivalry with. But anyway, the first episode, you're introduced with her and her behaviours. She feeds these chimps McDonald's, she feeds them, like, iced donuts, and, like, she was breastfeeding a chimp. Or her friend was breastfeeding someone was breastfeeding a chimp, which was just odd. She says herself that she loves her chimps more than she loves her children, which if I was her child watching it, I'd be like, thanks.
Yeah.
They're not your flesh and blood.
Oh my god.
So she loves these chimps, and Peter basically wants to take them away because she's not caring for them how she should be.
Yeah.
They're a wild animal. They should be in a reserve. Well, they should be in the wild, but after being there, they should be in a reserve. So it's this whole battle with Peter, and they get the go-ahead to move her chimps away. Second episode comes along, and they're like, we think she still has a chimp, but we can't prove it. And the chimp's name is Tonka.
Right.
And he's been in many films and movies over the years, and Tonya said she met Tonka and they just bonded, like, they got on like a house on fire. They were meant to be together. So she keeps Tonka in secret, and at first you don't know whether Tonka's still there or not. So you're kind of like guessing. And then her friend goes to see a psychic, and she shows the psychic a text message from Tonya saying, I'm just out buying groceries for Tonka. And you sit up in your seat like, Tonka's alive. Tonka's alive, and he's with Tonya. So then Peter gets a hold of this information. Someone whistle blows, and I think it's the psychic, if I remember correctly. I watched this a couple of weeks ago now. So Jared's having an absolute field day. Like, he's like, yes, finally, we've got some proof on her. Bring her in. So Tonya's like, Tonka died. Like, Tonka died. We cremated him on a burn pit. I've got his ashes. So she shows them the ashes, and they're like, did they come like this? Because they were a very fine powder.
Right.
And she was like, yeah, my husband just scooped them up from the burn pit after we burned him.
Well, that wouldn't happen.
Yes, they got a cremation expert. The court got a cremation expert, and they showed us what happens when you cremate. I think it was pig's bones they had, like flesh and bone. And it doesn't go like, you've got to put them in the processor to get them into a fine powder. So they were like, you're lying. So anyway, she goes to court, and it's over Teams. She sat there putting on an absolute performance.
Yeah.
Crying, being like, telling the story of when she found Tonka, like breaking down. So much so that they had to take a break. They were like, look, Mrs. Haddocks, get yourself together and we'll come back. Like, we'll give you a break.
Just imagine Tonka comes swinging in the video. She's like, damn it.
So they all go on a break, and she leaves her camera and microphone on, and she's like, those fucking bastards. And they're like, we just want to remind you, Miss Haddocks, your microphone and camera are still on. So it actually rules that the judge is like, you're a liar, but we can't prove it.
Yeah.
We can't prove it either way. So unless Peter can get some more evidence against you, you know, there's no case here.
Yeah.
So she's like, we won. She goes to hug her husband, and she says, we just need to keep him hidden. And you're like,
oh, well, on the... Is that on the camera?
On the documentary, not on the court camera.
Oh.
So you're like, oh, okay, this text, there was something to it. Like, he's alive and well. So she then goes into how they kept him hidden. She's got him down in a basement room, and she said he didn't just stay down there, he could come up and use the room and a bit of the back garden. She said she didn't just keep him in the basement. How true that is, we obviously don't know. But they go into how they keep him hidden. She's got a friend in another state. Surprisingly, she's not from Florida. She's from Missouri, I want to say. But she's not from Florida. I looked it up because I thought this is some shit that's going down in Florida. I just know it. So she contacts this guy in another state who used to be something in the government, but he wasn't trusted anymore because he used the town's money or the state's money on feeding an addiction of buying previously used items.
What?
So, you know, like, just going on Gumtree.
Yeah.
And he racked up thousands of debt, like thousands of pounds worth of debt, or thousands of dollars worth of debt, like literally like tens or hundreds of thousands. Like, it was a lot.
Just on Gumtree?
Just on like something like that. He was like, yeah, I just used to buy used items, so I'm not really trusted anymore. Like, that was his background. Sounded like a good bloke. And Tonya got in touch with him because I think he also had chimps. I really can't remember this part of the story, and it's really annoying because I didn't have time to rewatch it to tell it. But honestly, I really recommend this one. Like, if you really love a good documentary, this one is
I think it would just annoy me.
It's so good.
It just seems so cruel. Like, what?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. So you also hear stories of other chimps being kept as well. So you've got a really famous case of Travis the chimp, and I don't know if you've ever heard of it because I knew about it before it was on this documentary. But a woman had Travis as a child basically and brought him up as a human, and one day her friend came over and Travis did a brutal assault on her friend, literally ripped her face off, took her eyes out. You hear the police 911 call, and it's literally like chilling when you hear it.
Yeah.
They get the policeman who showed up on scene in the documentary, and he said that the lady who owned Travis was stabbing him to get him off the friend, but he wasn't going down. And then he pulled up in the police car. Travis rips the door off the police car, and the policeman was like, he was looking at me with like desperation in his eyes, almost saying like, please just end me because I can't cope anymore.
Yeah.
So the policeman shot him a number of times. He still didn't go down, but he retreated off to his cage and then sadly passed away in his cage. That woman never got over losing Travis. She actually got another chimp, but she couldn't have another chimp in her care. So she basically had it staying with this circus lady who used the chimps as like entertainment. And she was like, my chimps are celebrities. Like, they enjoy this. And when I say this woman's delusional, she's freaking delusional. Like, her chimps do not enjoy it.
You know what? It's like an extreme version of those pageant mums where they're like, it's their dream, and it's like, it's your dream.
Yeah, that
the
was
kid
literally
doesn't
her.
care. Yeah.
So eventually Travis's mum actually passes away very suddenly, and they say she died of a broken heart. She never got over losing Travis. They tell a story of another chimp who was kept as like a child. I can't remember where it was, but his name was Buck.
Right.
And when he was a lot older and obviously stronger, the mum needed help with him. So the mum asked her daughter to come back home and live there. So she moved into what was Buck's room, and Buck had to move rooms downstairs. So one day they accidentally left the door open, and he came up and absolutely savaged the daughter. She did survive. Both these attacks survived, luckily. Just really badly attacked. And they had to call the police to shoot him as well. So they tell those two stories, which is obviously really sad. But we'll go back to Tonya Haddock's because I just skipped above there. So she uses this guy, the government guy, to help hide him. So she takes him to his chimp enclosure or some sort of enclosure that he has and hides him there. On the way, they stop at a hotel, and Tonka's just in this cage, darted. And they're just bringing him up the stairs of the hotel. And I was like, did no one see this? Like, how are you doing this? And she was like, so he had a chimpanzee that passed away naturally. And we cremated him.
Oh, so that was the ashes.
Yeah, the ashes were a chimpanzee's. They just weren't Tonka's. So she was like, we created this whole story. And she was like, it was quite funny. We were on the run with Tonka and this other dead chimpanzee in the back, which probably just looked like human remains at this point, because we had to dig up the dead chimpanzee to cremate him. Like, he was dead. So it probably just looked like decaying human remains. So she was like, luckily we didn't get stopped. Like, can you imagine? And yeah, this lady's just grey. And it turns out that the film crew actually tell on her.
Good. How could they not? I mean, they've got all that evidence.
Yeah, so they build a relationship with her and then ultimately sell her down the river. And she's like, Tonka's got a heart condition, like, you can't move him. Like, she really guilts Peter, like, you're going to kill him by moving him. Like, this is too much stress to put on him.
You wheeled him into a hotel.
Yeah. So they dart him to move him. They have to move him out of the basement because it's too dark to conduct tests. And they conduct tests on him. He's not in heart failure. He's not got anything wrong with him apart from he's overweight.
Yeah.
Because of the fucking diet she's been feeding him, obviously. So they're like, no, he can be moved. He goes to a sanctuary, and the rest of it is basically Tonya boo-hooing about losing her chimp. And she's like, they don't realise what it's doing to me and the chimps. Like, Tonka's miserable there.
I bet he's having the best time.
He's just like, thank God I'm out of that basement.
That awful woman.
But she used to sit down there and like watch videos with him. Like, she was devoted to them, but just in all the wrong ways. It was just such an unhealthy bond that she had. And she's actually got an exotic petting zoo now. No chimpanzees, so she says. She'll probably be kept a really close eye on, but she's got no chimpanzees, but she's got an exotic petting zoo, and Peter's still after her for this petting zoo to shut it down.
Yeah.
But it's a good watch with loads of twists and turns. Like, you sit up in your seat a lot, like, sorry, what?
Rewind.
Yeah.
I'm guessing he was sedated in the boot of that car because of being kept in there with a dead.
Yeah.
Imagine that.
Yeah, he was sedated like that whole time.
God.
I don't know, she had a weird vet friend that came round. I'm guessing he was corrupt as well, because he was the one that said he was in heart failure.
Well, yeah, I mean...
And probably gave her the tranquilising medicine, because I don't know where you would get that from unless you go on the... I don't know. It was just a very strange documentary. But they do actually end up meeting with the film director who sold her down the river, and she has a chat with him, and it's all kind of cushy at the end. But it's just very bizarre, like the story of how they got to that.
That's wild.
Yeah, but bottom line is, chimps shouldn't be kept in captivity, and she actually went to see someone else's chimp, and she got attacked. At the end, she's like, my leg got bit, my arm, like, she got, like, bruised and beaten. Not savagely mauled like the other two that we hear about, but she did get attacked, and they were like, oh, after your experience, would you still advocate for keeping chimps? And she's like, yeah.
Honestly.
Tonka was a human Z, but more on the human side. That's what she said. She was like, he wants to be around humans. And I can't remember if it was in Chimp Crazy or one of the other chimp documentaries I then watched after Chimp Crazy. But one of these people who worked at the wildlife sanctuary was like, some of the chimps that come here, they've grown up around humans. They don't want the company of other chimps. Like, we have to integrate them slowly. But sometimes some chimps just don't want that human company, that chimp company. They just want to be with humans.
Aww. That's so sad.
Yeah.
What a deluded woman.
Yeah, she's absolutely delusional. Well, to let a chimp breastfeed.
That's disgusting.
And they, like, kiss them on the mouth, and...
I can't even imagine what that does to its psyche.
Yeah, no, these chimps are not happy. Like, the lady who got mauled by Travis, the friend... She said she now realises that when she used to see Travis, like, he wasn't happy. He was displaying loads of behaviours of distress, but they obviously just didn't realise it at the time. They just thought it was a really cute pet.
Is she the lady, she, like, wears a veil when she's interviewed? Yeah.
Yeah, she doesn't anymore. They've reconstructed a lot of her face, and she's out there. But she went on Oprah, and Oprah, God's sake, Oprah was like, the world really wants to see your face. Can you lift the veil? And she was, like, disfigured because they hadn't finished. And the chimp ripped her face off, and Oprah
Yeah.
was like, could you just lift the veil up? Could you just... Everyone wants to see.
Just real quick.
I know you've been really brave to come on the Oprah Winfrey show.
And probably you've had a guarantee that I'm not going to ask you to do that.
Yeah.
But
She was probably like, I'll come on, but just don't make me show my face. And Oprah was like, say less.
lift the veil.
I think she does lift it, though.
Well, yeah, you kind of would feel
Yeah.
like you have to.
She's obviously an advocate for not keeping chimpanzees as pets, but I would have been so angry knowing that the lady got another chimp. I know she wasn't
Yeah.
living with them, but I'd be like,
What the fuck?
thanks.
Oh, God.
Anyway. Right.
Let's hope Bigfoot's never put in captivity when they find
Yeah.
out.
Little
He
baby
can
Bigfoot
smash its
swinging
way
around.
Yeah.
Like King Kong.
Yeah. We've made
Some
enough movies to
foreshadowing.
know how it's going to go down.
Yeah. But yeah,
Thanks for listening.
thanks for listening. Gotta go, gotta get on, people to see, things to do, Bigfoots to hunt.
Hope you had a great Christmas and New Year. And enjoyed. Hope this topped it.
See you later.
Bye.
Spooky and kooky, mystery and wonder. Feel the magic under. Spooky and kooky.